From the Battery Street studios of KCBS Radio in San Francisco, I'm Matt Pitman, and this is Bay Current for Tuesday, October 26th. Warriors fans have a lot to be excited about these days. And before the Warriors even tipped off last Thursday night's home opener against the Clippers at a sold-out Chase Center, you could feel it.
I'm Mason from Walnut Creek.
I'm Tate from Walnut Creek.
All right, I'm Mason and Tate from Walnut Creek. What are you most excited about this season?
I'm just excited for our team. I think we got some good opportunities. People are coming back from injuries. I just think it's going to be really good.
I'm excited to see Klay come back.
Same.
I took a walk around the concourse to soak some of it in and chatted with some fans in the beer line, like Cheryl from San Francisco, sporting her brand new Andre Iguodala jersey with the updated logo, new since he last played for the Dubs 3 seasons ago.
I just got this right now. I was like, I'm not going here. I'm gonna get this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get it.
It's a one-of-a-kind jersey now.
Is he your favorite player?
My favorite Warrior. Off tops.
Cheryl was with men. He was rocking the number 11 Klay Thompson. You saw a lot of these.
You've got the number 11 jersey, right? Klay coming back at some point. What's that gonna be like?
I'm just excited that he's back. I mean, the reality is he's not going to be 100% on for opening night, but just the fact that he's there, he's present, just having him there really motivates the team, and I'm excited to watch it.
With a good hour to go before tip-off, Arcia and Joni, also SF residents, were ready, settled into their seats, about 15 rows up from the Warriors bench.
What do you see from this team that you like so far?
I mean, the dynamic has been super good. That last game against, a team that's top tier, the super team, and they produced so well.
Thing you're most excited about today?
I'm most excited actually to see Klay come back. He's been gone for so long. I'm just so excited to see him back.
And everyone was in for a show. The Warriors jumped out to an early 19-point lead. Then the Clippers roared back. And inside the final minute, with the Clippers leading by 1, who else would take the game-winning shot?
Curry hustles up the floor. Throw ahead, Damian Lee. Back to Curry. Curry fires away. 3-ball above the break. Curry knocked it down. Warriors go up by 2, and the Clippers call time.
The remarkable Steph Curry finished with 45 points, and the Warriors knocked off a Clippers team that went to the conference finals just a season ago. And 2 nights later, in Sacramento,
Curry crossover, leaves Mitchell in his wake, down the lane, left hand, spins it up and in over Buddy Hield. What a shot by Curry.
Curry's 27 points led the way in a win over the Kings. And no, it is not too early to say the Warriors are back. 3-0 to start the season, with 2 of those 3 coming on the road after a 5-0 preseason. So you'd imagine head coach Steve Kerr is feeling pretty upbeat these days. Sure, he'd like to see fewer turnovers, but this new-look roster and the looming return later this season of one of the franchise's all-time greats in Klay Thompson would have any coach dreaming of the possibilities. Coach Steve Kerr is my guest today on Bay Current. Coach, thanks for taking a couple minutes to chat with me here on the Bay Current podcast. Going back to Thursday night at Chase Center, that felt different than anything we've seen in this building. A couple days later, if you had a chance to just reflect on obviously a great win for you guys, total team effort, Steph's 45, but just the vibe in that place.
Yeah, well, I went to the Eagles concert last night, the next night after the game, and that was sold out pretty much. And so for me, the last 2 days, it just felt like, okay, this is what Chase is supposed to be about, a full house for the Warriors, incredible crowd energy and noise and connection with our team, and then a phenomenal concert the next night. And it's great. It feels like, even though we're not, obviously out of this pandemic, it feels like we are at least returning to some semblance of normalcy, at least those of us who are vaccinated. So it's been a really nice 48 hours, and it's great to see people in the seats for sure.
Speaking of semblance of normalcy, I think a season with expectations for this organization is something that folks are used to. And this year, that seems to be back here in the Bay Area. You guys added a lot of veteran players, and suddenly this is a very deep team. Once again, veteran presence, obviously a guy like Andre Iguodala adds to that certainly, but a guy like Otto Porter Jr., Nemanja Bjelica, these are veteran players who you can get significant contributions of in different rotations, and we saw a lot of that in your 5-0 preseason, now the 2-0 start. What does this team remind you of? Is there a parallel to some of the teams you had success with in the past where you're able to do a lot of different things with the versatility and depth?
It's really a new team. It's to me, it's different from, the 15 team that won the championship. That team was better defensively with Andrew Bogut and Draymond Green in the front court, really anchoring the defense. This team probably has more depth in its shooting than any team that since I've been here. Obviously the teams with Kevin Durant were the best teams offensively that not only that we've had, but pretty much that anybody's ever had. So it's different. We're not as gifted, at the top of our roster. Obviously Klay's not back yet, but Steph's at the top of his game, and then we got a whole bunch of guys who know how to play, who move the ball, who shoot it well, who can put it on the floor. Guys like Belly who, can make a three, and if they get closed out, they can drive the close out and find an open shooter. And then there's another good shooter on the back end of that pass. We saw that, against the Lakers. So it's really an exciting team. I think our fans are going to really enjoy watching the group. But until Klay is back, and James Wiseman in particular, those two, I don't think we'll have a full feel for what our team's going to look like.
Well, just to take you behind the scenes, the rookie Jonathan Kuminga, he's another piece you're going to be getting back. He just stepped to the podium, so we've moved outside to one of the terraces. That's the noticeable difference in the sound. Even when it's gray, man, the view from here is not too bad, is it?
Spectacular. It's just incredible. 9th floor. We often come up here and watch film or have a team meeting just to look out over the bay and get a different view.
So we were talking about this team and the nucleus and kind of makeup of this team. It sounds like there's so much ceiling in terms of how they can come together, and rotations will constantly be defined. That has to add a level of excitement for what you guys are going to be able to do potentially in the future.
I think a lot of it too is every team just sort of has a life force, kind of a connection of some sort. But you can kind of feel at the beginning of the year, what kind of year you're looking at. I mean, 2 years ago, for example, we're wiped out with injuries. We started the season, and we all know it's going to be a tough year. Last year, with the pandemic, with no fans, throwing James out there, knowing he was going to have some really difficult growing pains, and that we didn't have a ton of shooting on the roster. Like, all right, this is going to be really tricky. And it was tricky. It was very difficult for everybody to kind of find what the team would be really good at and how we could best make use of our roster. This year, I think the whole organization feels it. The roster makes a lot of sense. We got great guys. The ball moves. Klay's coming back. James will be in his second year. We got a couple more rookies. We got Andre Iguodala back. Like, there's just this feeling, like this sense of, man, this team can be special, and we're going to have a really good time this year. And that stuff matters,
You've mentioned it a couple of times that I can't let you get away without asking about Klay. So we had some rehearsal stuff early on Thursday, and I had about an hour of kind of spare time. And I took the recorder up, chatted with some fans, They were so excited to do things like stand in line for beer or a hot dog, right? Stand in line at the team store. The palpable excitement was there, but everyone mentioned Klay. Man. Everyone mentioned Klay. And at some point when he comes back, we don't have something nailed down. Late December, early to mid-January is kind of the targeted range. But from the personal standpoint, because I know your connection with Klay is special, what's it going to mean to you?
It'll be emotional. That night, I expect a lot of tears to flow at Chase. I know I will be very emotional. Bob Myers, we've talked about it. It's going to be one of the most special moments that we'll ever witness. Now, once that moment is done, then we've got to give Klay every bit of room that he needs to get his legs back underneath him. So I think it's highly unrealistic for anybody to expect him to just come out and score 30 points his first night out. So we're looking at this as whenever he comes back, let's at least give him a month before we, have any expectations. But the thing with Klay that we know is that he's an amazing shooter, moves without the ball, loves the game. he's not a guy who relies so much on freak athleticism, trying to create shots. He's a guy who moves around the court and can create shots with his movement. So I personally feel like he's in great position to come back and be successful, but we've got to be really patient with it.
How's he been looking to you in the facility?
Looks great. He's happy. He's excited. He's working with the coaches. Today he did every non-contact drill with our team in practice, and there's just a palpable energy when he's part of things that is really fun to feel.
I can't think of a question to ask that you haven't already been asked about Steph Curry. I don't know if you can think of anything to say that you haven't already said about Steph Curry, but my goodness, Coach, the show that he gave these folks here on Thursday night. I mean, at what point do you just kind of say, yeah, I don't have anything else to say. I'm in the same boat with you, the fans, and everyone else.
I just think that, someday we're all going to look back and go, oh my gosh, what we witnessed was, so special in the history of sports. Yeah. And one of those guys, who you're going to look back on forever as, groundbreaking. And, just like we look back at Babe Ruth, that's, to me, that may sound like hyperbole, but I honestly think that's, Tom Brady, Babe Ruth, Steph Curry. I think he's in that class because of the way he carries himself, because of the way he works, because of how special he is as a player and how different he is as a player. And you can see he's 33, still at the top of his game, getting better every year. So I think our fans already know this, but we should all just enjoy every second of it because we're watching history.
This comes from a guy who played with another guy who can probably be mentioned with Brady and Ruth, and that is number 23, Michael Jordan. You've seen him.
Probably should have mentioned Michael's name in there too, but the point being,
it's obviously implied, and like I said, you're intimately familiar with those two, Michael and with Steph.
Yeah, and I think sometimes we don't realize the impact people make until years later. Muhammad Ali is maybe a different reason, but in the 60s and early 70s when he was stripped of his heavyweight title and vilified in huge sections of America for his stance against the Vietnam War. You fast forward 30 years and he's an American hero. There's a lot of people who sort of fall into that category because I think often when you're witnessing something live, you don't appreciate it as much until it's gone. And I think Steph, who's beloved everywhere he goes right now, I think that admiration and love and respect is only going to grow once he's done playing. So he's a special person, just a magnetic personality, the joy, the humility, the swagger, all thrown into one. It's an amazing combination.
Coach, really appreciate your time and best of luck the rest of the way out.
All right. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you again to Warriors head coach Steve Kerr. And thank you for listening. Subscribe to Bay Current on the Odyssey app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen. You can also get each episode of the Bay Current podcast on the KCBS Radio YouTube page. And follow Bay Current on Twitter @BayCurrent. I'm Matt Pitman. We'll chat with you again tomorrow.